Well, over the past month or two, we had an election of change of the as you call it, the change of the guards. So during the election process, I was nominated to the club, Clint Sobrati, and Charles Barkley, the Honorable Charles Barkley, he was nominated vice chair of the club. And also we have Karen Lenz, who was nominated treasurer of the club. And Sharon Cranford, who used to be the treasurer, now she decided to create a new role of the membership liaison, where we're gonna try to increase our membership base and try to get more involved and engaged and active inside of the community itself. So we trying to work together to build the District 39 team bigger and stronger and get more involved in a lot of situation up hand. And as I'm talking to you guys, I see the Honorable the Council President, Mr. Andrew Friedson, just stepped on. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and before we let me introduce Andrew himself, and then I'll let him speak, and then we'll take some questions later on in the segment and see what everybody thinks about. He love to hear everybody's thoughts and concern and go from there. So Andrew Friedman currently serves as our president of the Montgomery County Council, serving in his second term. He proudly represents District 1, which includes Bethesda, Chevy Chase, and Potomac. Andrews was elected in 2018 as the youngest council member in Montgomery County history and continued to make history as the youngest ever council president, serving the only place he ever called home. He chairs the Planning and Housing and Park, the PH Committee, and serves on the Government Operation and Physical Policy, the GO Committee. Councilmember Friedson established a $100 million revolving housing production fund, a $50 million nonprofit preservation fund, and spearheaded legislation to incentivize smart growth housing near transit, fast-track affordable housing projects, and facilitate affordable housing development on county-owned and faith-based land to address our housing crisis. He co-authored the county's largest ever climate investment with Montgomery County Green Building Now Act and sponsored legislation to provide guaranteed paid parental leave for county employees. He has been a consistent advocate for transparency in the county government and has led efforts to strengthen financial oversight and the county ethic laws, improve the budget process, and reform the county's property tax system. He is a leader for Working Family and sponsored the paid parental leave and right to nourish bill as to make sure Montgomery County continues to attract and retain talent so we can best serve our residents. He's been referred to as the economic and fiscal center of the Montgomery County Council. Friedson leads the largest individual economic development effort in Montgomery County history, the new JOBS initiative, a $20 million package, a job creation fund, innovation fund, a founding equity funds. He has received the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce Legislator of the Year, Public Policy Leadership Award for the Center of Nonprofit Advancement, the inaugural Champion of the Western County Award from the Fair Access Committee, the BCC Resource Squad Hiram Musgrove Memorial Award, and the Glen Echo Park Advocacy Award. Andrew has become known for his work enhancing quality of life, growing the local economy, and modernizing county government with a pragmatic, data-driven approach. He has built broad coalition to tackle issues to make Montgomery County more attractive, accessible, and affordable for family and businesses. I guess I can't say anything more because with a resume, half of that, we all know what he's capable of. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend, the Council President, Mr. Andrew Friedson.
Thanks, Clint. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me here and for joining on a beautiful Sunday today. It's great to see my good friend Senator King here. It's great to see you, and I really always enjoy being together with you. And I see Moomin and Matt and Fran and Charlie Barkley. Oh my gosh, so many great people. This is the challenge I learned from Jamie Raskin, when you start rattling off your friends that you see on a Zoom, inevitably somebody's picture is not showing up in your feed and you miss somebody. So apologies in advance, but it's a thrill to be able to join you. Really appreciate the invitation, Clint. I'm going to start, just note the national election. I'm sure things will come up related to that. I did want to focus on a lot of the things that we've been doing locally, although I will say Clint covered quite a number of them, but happy to expand upon those that are of particular interest. And then really focus most of today on question and answer and to have a dialogue because I know you are so involved in so many of these issues. You already know what I'm going to talk about and know things that I don't know. And so I really would prefer to spend most of our time listening to you, hearing from you, and having a dialogue with you. But let me just first address the 800-pound gorilla, which is we're all reeling from the national election. And I lost my great aunt, and uh, we had her funeral on Wednesday, the day
Mm.
after the election. And it was just an emotional day for so many reasons. Part of us thought that she decided to let go and leave us because she couldn't face the prospect of a second Trump term. And we made light of it. We almost joked about it, but we joked about it in such a serious way because of the impact that this election is going to have on so many people in Montgomery County, so many of our lives. And with just the announcements of some of the craziest of people who are not only not experienced in the areas that they have been appointed in a level of nepotism and loyalty test that we have really never seen before, but openly want to dismantle the very agencies that they're being asked and being tapped to lead. And for a place like Montgomery County, where we have so much of our county's workforce that is directly tied to the federal government, it is scary. It is challenging. So many of our residents who rely on federal services, it is going to be a real challenge. We know that in Montgomery County, we value being a safe and welcoming place for all of our residents. We are not going to waver from that. We're not going to waver from the fact that we know that diversity is the strength of our community. That's true in District 39. That's true countywide, and we know why people from every corner of the world and all walks of life choose to call Montgomery County home, whether they were born here or whether they chose to come here. And we're not going to allow for hateful rhetoric and some of the proposed draconian policies espoused by both the Trump election and his campaign and him himself, but also those he tapped to lead some of our agencies. We'll continue to hold true to our values, the compassion and inclusion, respect, and tolerance for all that Senator King is a champion of at the state level, that we know that she and the General Assembly, working with the Moore administration, will continue to uphold. But we know that it's going to be tough sledding, and we're going to have to lock arm in arm with our state partners, with our federal officials, with our faith partners and our nonprofit leaders, and our law enforcement community leaders to ensure that we are fighting back against hate in all of its forms, that we are not turning back the clock on so much of the progress that we have made, and that we are continuing to make sure that Montgomery County remains a peaceful and welcoming place for all of our residents, those who have been here for many, many years, and those who are choosing to come here very, very recently. So I just want to make sure that we speak about that. We are already making plans at the county level to address some of the concerns and some of the issues. We were bracing for it, hopeful for the best, but prepared for the worst prior to the election. And we're continuing to do that work. So stay tuned for announcements and some of the other things that we'll be doing to make sure that we are ensuring that residents know what resources they have that are available, that we are partnering in ways to make sure that we are addressing concerns as they come, and just know that we are diligently focused and are not wavering in light of what we know is a huge challenge. And I'll just say, I think It's a dark moment. It's going to continue to be dark moments. We have serious challenges ahead, but one single light extinguishes darkness. And Montgomery County collectively and each of us individually has an opportunity to serve as that light. And we need to lean into that to the extent that we can and stick together always as we move forward. At the local level, speaking of the light and some of the progress that we have made, I just wanted to expound upon a few things that were mentioned that I'm particularly proud of. As mentioned, I've really focused on housing, affordable housing, making sure that residents who have been here for a long time can continue to stay here, and those who want to move here or children who want to raise their own families here, like I grew up here and would like to be able to raise a family here, can afford to, which is increasingly becoming out of reach for so many of our families. There's not a single zip code, there's not a single street in Montgomery County that's less expensive than it was 20 years ago, even adjusted for inflation. We face a real challenge in Montgomery County where a child who was raised here, like I was in Montgomery County, with the exact same job, the exact same education level, the same career path, could not possibly afford to live in anything close to the community where their parents or grandparents, parent or parents raised them. Not even close. And that is a fundamental challenge that is only going to get more and more difficult as there is a dismantling potentially of the federal government, or at least a threat to the dismantling of the federal government. And it's something that we have to address. It's a moral imperative. It's also an economic imperative. And it's something that I focused a lot on as chair of the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee. I'm proud of the $100 million fund that you heard that is really bearing fruit. It's incredibly exciting. In the 1970s, Montgomery County was a national leader on housing. We stopped being a national leader in the 90s and 2000s. We reverted back to many of the same challenges that many other suburban jurisdictions had. We basically stopped being creative and we stopped building housing at the level that we had previously. And the proof is in the pudding in terms of the challenges that we face, but we are leading again. This $100 million housing production fund, it's already led to two huge projects through the Housing Opportunities Commission. The first one was right outside the Shady Grove Metro, not accidental that it's transit oriented. The second, Hillendale Gateway. That first project, the laureate, was featured in the New York Times as a model for how state and local governments can tackle the housing crisis. The Hillendale Gateway project is the largest residential community and the largest investment in the East County in 50 years. And it is the first in the Mid-Atlantic net zero project of its size. So it is not only going to address our housing challenges, address some of the lack of investment in East County, but will also provide mixed income housing from deeply affordable to workforce to market rate, which is the type of housing that we need. If you want to integrate communities, you need all of everything in terms of the affordability levels. And it's really exciting that we're moving forward with that. And there's a third project and perhaps more projects to come on that front. I have spoken to jurisdictions all over the country that are trying to replicate what we're doing. I think it's something that we should be proud of. The state, with Nancy King and others, has created a statewide fund for other jurisdictions and us to be able to tap into to expand ours and to create similar models elsewhere. Vaughn Stewart and others have been major champions of that at the state level with Nancy King's support, and we're moving forward on that. The second piece of that, several years ago when we launched that housing production fund, was always to have a preservation fund, partnering with our nonprofit providers. We finally got that off the ground. A ton of work went into it, but a $50 million fund was launched and fully funded this year. And that will help us to preserve up to a half of our naturally occurring affordable housing that was built 40, 50, 60 years ago, that we want to maintain as affordable housing, but needs to be dignified, it needs to be safe, and it needs to be able to meet the needs of our residents today, and the Housing Opportunities Commission and our nonprofit partners have all started to tap into that fund already, and it's helped us to address some of the at-risk of loss naturally occurring affordable housing. That's going to be a major positive. Also worked earlier this year with Vice President Kate Stewart on what's called the Faith CTA, Facilitating Accessible Transformational Housing. I miss inclusive. Accessible, affordable, inclusive, transformational housing, the Faith Initiative. It will make it easier for faith-based organizations and educational institutions to build housing, to co-locate housing on their property. We have all these mission-based organizations that have been advocating for affordable housing, are sitting on huge swaths of land or parking lots and others, and haven't been able to be part of the things that they're advocating for in terms of housing, because we made it too difficult for them to actually build. And so we made that process much, much easier. We're already seeing some faith-based organizations start to move forward with interest in projects. Those projects will be affordable. There are affordability thresholds in order to qualify. It's very exciting to see what's happening there. That's building off of a prior effort that I had undertaken, a bill that I had done, the first bill of this new council actually 2 years ago, which is to help the county to move forward with our co-locating of housing on county-owned public land. If we want to address this issue, the county needs to lead by the power of our example, not just the example of our power, as I like to say a lot. And so I'm really excited about that. We're also seeing the prior effort that I worked with Hans Riemer on to provide incentives to build housing on Metro, the More Housing at Metro bill that Hans Riemer and I championed together. And this is an incentive to turn parking lots at Metro sites, areas that we currently get no housing and no property taxes and no income taxes, no revenue benefits at all, and turn it into high-rise housing. We've seen now a number of interest of projects moving forward, and actually the opening of the first major project, Strathmore, right by our preeminent arts institution in Montgomery County. It's an amazing project, beautiful new facility, and the best part about it for me is not only does it have transit access, not only does it have trail and park access, and huge amounts of green space, but it's 22% affordable because of a partnership with the Amazon Affordable Housing Fund. And so we are providing important affordable housing in the highest quality space. It has partnerships with Strathmore. And in fact, there are artists in the ground floor as part of that project, and memberships for the residents to be able to move forward with that. So just really exciting what we're seeing. You heard earlier the $20 million new jobs initiative, the largest individual economic development package that the county has ever put forward, that I led and spearheaded as council president this past year. The first of the three funds has launched for that, the Job Creation Fund. This is an initiative where if you create new high-paying jobs and meet certain thresholds in strategic industries as part of our economic development strategic plan that I passed a bill to create several years ago, then you get an incentive. You get funding from the county. It's a loud signal that if you want to invest in Montgomery County wants to invest in you. And I think it's a message that we haven't said enough. We've allowed our economy to stagnate over the last decade. We've rested on our laurels a little bit, but our strengths, our benefits, the things that make Montgomery County as strong as it always has been, have never been more relevant than they are now. And if we are intentional and strategic, we can not only lead the region once again, but we can lead the world. And I hope that, and I expect that this initiative will be part of it. There's two other funds as part of the initiative. There's a Founders Equity Fund, which is an initiative to be inclusive as we grow our economy. We need to make sure that we're investing in entrepreneurs and in places that have historically lacked access to private capital for a lot of different reasons. We have to be as intentional in investing as there were intentional disinvestments over the course of decades and centuries. And this is an effort to do that. And then the third piece is an innovation fund to really double down on our global strength in innovation industries and biohealth. We're the #1 place in the world in civilian health investments and research. And we need to turn the R of research into the D of development, creating jobs and creating tax revenue to the extent that we can. And this is an effort to do that. So I'm really excited about that. Those other two funds are expected to launch in the next few weeks. And so I'm really excited about moving that forward. And then, we're continuing to move forward the great clinical life sciences corridor. We just passed that master plan to create a livable, walkable community, partnering with our partners in the healthcare and biohealth space. So it's very exciting to be able to do that. And then I'll just close highlighting a couple pieces related to the budget. We're already talking about next year's budget, but in last year's budget, that in this current fiscal year that we passed at the end of last year, the county approved the $7.1 billion budget. A reminder that Montgomery County's local budget is larger than 7 states and is a significant effort. We funded our public schools at a record $3.3 billion. I know Matt Post cares quite a bit about that, as all of the roles that he has played, formal and informal, in that. And for the first time ever, we included, with my urging, transparency and accountability metrics in the budget resolution. We have never done that before. I think it's an important signal and message for us to work together with the Board of Education, with the superintendent, and with our partners in public education to set what our expectations are, to make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable for 3rd grade reading and math, to make sure that we are looking at how we are investing in our schools in an equitable way, and that every dollar is going to its best and highest use. We also added positions for the Office of the Inspector General. You've seen a number of reports related to some of the issues that have been uncovered, and I really appreciate the fact that the school system has started to embrace that level of oversight, understanding that we need to do that. This is part of an effort that I had led several years ago to expand the scope and the role of the Inspector General, understanding that oversight is a huge part of what we do. The only currency that we have in public life is public trust. And that is our currency. That is what you are giving us to allow us to invest your taxpayer dollars to ensure that they are providing for your quality of life and our shared values. And that means, and especially in our most important investment, our public schools, that means making sure that they're being utilized in the best possible way. We've been doing that in county government. We're now doing that in public schools. We now have a division within the Office of Inspector General dedicated to MCPS, and the number of phone calls, the amount of interest has expanded multifold, which shows that people are paying attention, and it shows that we are moving forward and are up for that job and that role. As part of that, I'll just note we added $26.3 million to the county executive's request. We have funded above maintenance of effort over the last 3 years, more than we ever have before in the history of the county. And actually, you could take all the times we went over maintenance of effort in history and look at the last 3 years, and the last 3 years alone would dwarf every single other time historically that we've ever gone above maintenance of effort, the threshold that the state says at minimum we have to fund there. So I'll just note that, and I think we largely can stop there. The last thing that I'll say on the budget is we're already looking ahead to next year's budget, and one of my main initiatives has been to not just focus on the budget, our primary function in county government, the $7.1 billion budget, in that short time frame between March 15th and the end of May, which is a very condensed time frame, and nobody understands condensed time frames like Senator King with a 90-day legislative session where much of that happens really in the last 15 days when the budget gets approved and sleeves get rolled up. But it doesn't allow for the thoughtfulness and the methodical nature looking long term strategically as many of us would like. And so we're starting to do base budget reviews, which we've been talking about for years. We're finally starting to implement. And that process has just started. Kate Stewart and I, as vice president and president, set forth on a process, starting with MCPS to do deep dives into the long-term cost drivers of the budget. And we had our first meeting, our first effort of this with MCPS, the first of 3 expected meetings. One will be next month, the second one, the third one will be in January. We looked at compensation and some of the major cost drivers related to personnel, which is obviously a huge part of a people-powered business like education. The second piece will be related to contracting and some other areas. And then the third piece will be the blueprint, which carries significant calculations for how we're going to fund it at the state level. This is a question that Senator King is leading and part of, and at the county level, because it is a partnership in terms of how we fund our schools. But I'm proud of the fact that we have set forth on this process, that we are moving forward, that the school system is participating in these conversations, understanding that the Board of Education has a role. They're independently, duly elected, that we have a role as a county council and a primary funder, that the state has a role in how they oversee all of this and how they fund some of it, and that the superintendent and the staff and our educators and our teachers and our families have a role as well. So we're moving forward and doing the best that we can. And I'll end where I started, which is we're not immune to what's happening on Capitol Hill. In fact, we are probably more allergic to some of the negative outcomes than almost any other jurisdiction anywhere in the country. But we are not relying exclusively on what happens at the federal level. We are doing what we need to do at the county level. We're partnering as much as we possibly can at the state level. We're bracing for what we think are going to be challenging economic and fiscal times. The governor has been forecasting this. We've been talking about transportation and some of the other dynamics. We know that these are going to be challenging times. They're going to be challenging to threaten our revenues. They're going to be challenging to threaten the jobs and the livelihoods of our residents. They're going to be challenging to threaten the safety and well-being and the feeling of being included and being welcomed and being safe among our residents. And we're going to do everything that we can, everything within our power to stand up, to stand with, and to partner to make sure that we are sticking up for our residents and ensuring that there is a pushback to any effort and attempt to undermine the fundamental freedoms and liberties that Marylanders and Montgomery County residents are accustomed to and value, and that we stand up in a positive way for the values that we all share and for what has made Montgomery County historically a place where people from all over the world want to come. So with that, I'm happy to open it up to questions. Really appreciate you allowing me to join.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. You just gave us a whole lot of information that we got to swallow and dissect. But before we begin anything, I'm going to let Senator Nancy King give any remarks or add anything extra to what you just expound about and see where we go from there.
Thank you, Clint. Andrew, nice to see you here. And I think this year, probably more important than any years that I've been in government, it is imperative that the county and the state, that we all work together as a team, because I don't think I've seen the financial situation quite this bad ever yet. So we're just kind of wading into it and trying to figure out exactly how we're going to handle it. But it'll be even more important this year, I think, to go hand in hand with the council. So as always, I appreciate working with you because it's a good relationship. And as far as the election last week, and I've talked to a lot of people about it, and once I got over the shock of what had happened, I think my opinion on it, and I've talked to most of the other leadership people in Annapolis. For us, we're going to continue doing what we do. We've got the priorities that we've had, the women's rights issues. We have our all the issues that we have held dear that we are going to continue to hold. Um, and I think that probably the best thing that we do is just move forward and effect the things that we have some jurisdiction over. The rest of it, the new president and his people will have to do and take the blame for it or the credit, whatever it is. But we have to do what we do best. So really kind of looking forward to getting back into it. Session will be here um, in just a few weeks, 7 weeks, I think I counted today. So we'll be starting at it in Annapolis. Um, I think people are going to have to be very patient this year. There are going to be major cuts. There are going to be capital cuts, a lot of budgetary cuts. We know that. And we're trying really hard to just find where we can make those cuts and not raise taxes if at all possible. I mean, we're really looking towards not raising any, but we've got to have a balanced budget in 90 days. So we'll see what happens with that. But I do know that for my whole budget and taxation committee, that we are looking to we're very aware of people being concerned about their own finances, and we are looking to solve the problem and make it as easy for our residents as we possibly can. So I'm asking you to hang in there with me. When you're at home in your budget and you can't afford to buy something, so you don't, well, I think we'll be probably there quite a bit this year, wow, for the next 2 or 3 years. And we just ask you to hang in with us. I think Maryland's not the only state that's going to have problems, and we just look for you all to work with us. But Andrew, I'm looking forward to working with you again. We do very well together.
You're a great partner and a true friend, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Senator, that was great to know because we have a lot of work ahead of us, and we got to really work together and be very educated about what's about to happen and what we need to all understand what's coming, so we could figure out a way how to get through this together as a county and as a state.
Yeah.
But
Clint, can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
The biggest concerns that I have and a lot of us have in District 39 is the issue with the with immigrants without papers. And I was here, I think it was when Bush was president, when ICE came in and took parents away from home so that their kids came home from school and there were no parents there. And it was a really awful, awful period. And so we're kind of racking our brains, and I know the council is too. I've been talking to Don Lukey about it. Um, we've got to make sure that the people that are affected, number one, have a plan for what they do next. But it is probably one of the biggest concerns for the immigrant population in my district because they just don't know where to go first, and they're petrified. So something to worry about.
Yeah, yeah, it's something that we all got to think about and worry with. But I just like to follow back on what Andrew was saying, because Andrew, you give us a lot of information, and I see you've been very busy over the year as president, so you accomplished a lot, and that's good. I guess we could know the county is strong as you get ready to pass it on to your incoming president. I have one question in the chat, but one question I'd like to ask, because Montgomery County and Maryland, we're like the kind of the home for a lot of the federal contractors. So how would that, with this new administration coming in, how would it become an impact to those federal employees that live in the county, and how would it affect our county as a whole?
The answer is huge impact, and we're very concerned about that. We think that if even a fraction of what the Trump campaign and what some of the Trump, announced appointees, if even a fraction of that comes to fruition, it would have a devastating impact on Montgomery County and a devastating impact on the state of Maryland, where about a third of the gross domestic product, about a third of the overall economy is tied to the federal government. It's even more in Montgomery County specifically. It's not just the agency jobs themselves, it's the indirect spending that happens as a result of those agencies' jobs. Those jobs and departments have contractors. Those contractors, many of them live here. Those people who live here don't just get incomes, they buy groceries. They go to the dry cleaners. They support our local businesses. And so the ripple effect is significant for direct, indirect, and induced economic activity and spending. And it's something that we're very, very concerned about and something that we need to address. Now, there's two aspects of this. One, we need to fight back with everything that we possibly can to not allow for the dismantling of federal agencies, departments, and programs. Number two, we need to diversify our economy outside of the federal government because we are at risk. And the challenge is, particularly in an environment where we have one party that does not believe in government and specifically does not believe in the federal government, and combined with some vindictiveness, frankly, of prohibiting for years, even before this latest election result and what we're bracing for currently. For years, there has been an effort to undermine new federal departments and agencies or expansions from being able to locate in Maryland or in the DMV. That is not by accident. That is not some random occurrence. That is both vindictiveness and a recognition that Virginia has increasingly become a purple, if not a blue state, particularly Northern Virginia. And Republicans in Congress have decided that they don't want us to have these federal departments, agencies, and jobs. And that is not okay to politicize, what are, core government functions and critical services that residents are relying on. We're not talking about abstract ideas. We're talking about safe food. We're talking about making sure that people are getting free meals. Kids who are showing up to school so their brains are nourished so that they can learn. I mean, we're talking about making sure that medicine is not going to kill you. These are not bizarre expansions of government. These are the most basic functions of what every American, regardless of party, believes the government is expected to do. We can have debates and discussions of quite how far the government should go or shouldn't go, and those are within the bounds of discourse. It is not within the bounds of discourse to suggest that we should have safe drinking water, or that we should have food that isn't going to harm children, or that we should make sure that we're putting forward proper safeguards. So it's going to be a huge impact. It's something that we're bracing for. There's the near immediate term of pushing back against those efforts to try to prevent them to the extent that we can. And then there's the medium and the long-term effort, something that I have been trying very hard, something that the economic development package that I put forward is part of, which is to get out of our reliance of the federal government. It's not to say the federal government is bad. It's great, but it should be the baseline. It should be the floor, not the ceiling of our economic capabilities, because we can't maintain the quality of life that we've become accustomed to in Montgomery County if we're too heavily reliant on the federal government. And unfortunately, right now, those risks are becoming more and more apparent.
Yeah, clearly. I have two questions in the chat that I'm going to try to couple it together. I think Senator King answered one, but you can maybe follow up on it before we go to Andrew Sandro. Have we received any revenue projection from Annapolis since the election? And the other question is, the economy is fairly good, but why are we facing I know you could kind of couple it together, and because I know Senator King explained, like with the budget coming up, we still have to be really diligent and conservative about how we actually what is to come out of Annapolis itself. But I hope you could address on that right quick before I go to Andrew. Andrew, Mr. Friedson? Yeah. Did you hear?
I'm sorry. I thought Senator King was going first. I apologize.
Oh, well, either or.
Sure. We don't have new projections at the county level. We do have new projections at the state level. I'll let Senator King talk about it, but the picture is not particularly rosy. It's not unexpected. I mean, basically, thanks to the Biden administration, the Democratic Congress, there was a huge infusion of federal dollars that buoyed us for a period of time. It stabilized our economy, and it did what almost no economic expert thought was possible in the depths of the COVID pandemic, which was to not only avoid the economic catastrophe that a 100-year global pandemic would ordinarily have created, but to also avoid a cliff, a true economic cliff, and instead to have a soft landing. Inexplicably, almost amazingly, and unfortunately, the Biden administration, the Democratic Congress does not get nearly enough credit for this. But both of those things happen, which is really 100 years from now will be one of the most extraordinary things that has ever happened economically. That it's almost impossible for both those things to be true. Having said that, while there's an economic soft landing for the economy that has not hurt ordinary Americans quite to the extent that it would have likely been expected, even though there are people who are still suffering and that there are real challenges that I think we need to speak more to as Democrats. Reality is that there is a fiscal cliff for state and local governments where the hundreds of millions of dollars of money that help us get through those times have run out. And we don't have revenues specifically to replace them. And so now we have to grapple with this, particularly at the local level. We added hundreds of millions of dollars of new services that people have come to expect. And unfortunately, I'll give it just one example, food recovery. I was just at Nourishing Bethesda. People think of Bethesda as one of the most wealthy places in the country, but 750 families came to get free meals. This was an effort that was started. I helped to launch it with a local church that has become a huge effort. And it was intended to be a COVID response, but it is not a COVID response. In fact, the needs in the community, and certainly this is true in District 39, but I'm here to tell you it is true across the county, not just in District 39, and not just in places that we historically have thought of as places where there are higher concentrations of poverty. It is true virtually everywhere where we have people who are struggling desperately. And we have a question of whether or not we keep those services, we provide food for people who need it, and how we're going to pay for it. And before we were paying for it with federal dollars, now there are no more federal dollars for these services. And so the state's got to decide what they're going to do. We've got to decide what we're going to do. And we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it. Some of it means we're going to have to prioritize, as you heard from Senator King, of some of the things that we used to do that we might not need to do. And we need to replace it with some of these things that we've started to do that we actually do desperately need to do for needs that have both grown and arisen, but also needs that were always there that we just weren't focused on to the extent that we probably should have been. But that's really the issue. There's a fiscal cliff from federal dollars that has really been impacted. It could have been an economic cliff and an economic disaster. It wasn't, thank goodness, and Democrats deserve credit for that. But there is a reality that we have to face and a seriousness that we have to face it with.
Yeah, thank you for that. Hey, the person on 9361, could you mute your phone because it's been a little interruptive at the moment. I'm sorry to do that, and we're kind of a little pressed for time, so I'm gonna.
You want me to give a quick addition to what Andrew had said?
You could that would be lovely. I wanted to just hear from Andrew Sandro also because I know he had his hand up and we're close to the time where the MCDA cuts off at 4, and I really apologize, Senator, for that. So I just want to hear from Andrew Sandro so that way he don't feel his hands up for the longest while.
That's fine. I'd like to hear from Senator King if she'd like to speak to that as well, and then I can jump in if there's any time at the end, and if not, no worries.
Well, I think it is going to be the tightest thing this year with priorities. You know, we've got to feed our people. We've got to make, there are basic necessities that we are going to have to focus on first before we can do a lot of programs. I mean, there's a lot of discussion about the blueprint. We know that we're in trouble with that by 27, I think it is. It's very expensive. And I have a dog that's crying because he wants to sit on my lap. Um, we have to set our priorities, and there are going to be some things that will have to be cut. And I've heard it discussions in Annapolis that there's a chance that healthcare can be cut. There's a chance that education can be cut. And it's not going to be forever. We're going to recover like we always do, but I think people are going to really have to buckle in and hang in there with us, because it is just not going to be a pleasant year financially for us. So I just ask for all of your support.
Okay. Good. Clint, could I say something?
Wait,
Richard
hold
Allen
up.
here.
Wait, Richard, hold up. We have really pressed for time, and I got
okay.
Andrew on the phone. So yeah, let
Okay,
Andrew
sure.
speak first. And if any time we let you speak before we let Council President Andrew Friedson get the last words before our time run out on us.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. I'll be quick. I've got sort of an unusual question for what I typically ask about. The Up County Citizens Advisory Board was on a tour yesterday, and we met with some of the agribusinesses up in the ag reserve. And one of the concerns that we heard from a lot of the businesses up there was the getting through the permitting process. I understand the county has created a business liaison position within the permitting office to help streamline that for them. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to what the trajectory of that is since those positions were just created.
Yeah, great question. This continues to be an area of focus that the council has been pushing the executive branch on. Obviously, something that we've been hearing a lot of, that has been a consistent concern that we have heard of how hard it is to go through the permitting process. In fact, I'm dealing with constituent issues on, 5 or 6 of these issues right now. I will say, when I flag the issue to the director, Robbie, he's responsive, but the process itself is not helpful. So I'm not sure. I have to check on the timing of the hiring of that position. It is something that we're focused on. It's something that I'm very concerned about. To me, this is the blocking and tackling of local government. This is core to what we do. And, as Democrats who believe in government, our responsibility, if we want to prove to people that we should have their trust to do the big things, we have to demonstrate that we can get the small things done and do them well. And how easy it is to get a permit, how effectively your trash gets picked up, how easy it is to get a stump removed and a tree removed in the right of way. To me, that is at the heart and the core of what local government must be. And I think it may not be the sexiest of issues, but I really do think it is existential to us as a party that believes in the power of the public sector to support people, to help people, to lift people up, to level the playing field. We have to get the little things right if we want to prove to people that they should trust us on the big things. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
Thank you.
Well, Richard, I'm sorry, we have less than a minute before the our meeting get cut.
Sure.
Because we only had an hour time in it.
Okay.
But I see that couple questions in the chat. Andrew, you see, is a very important conversation. Everybody is in tune and engaged, and we'd love for you to come back again to have a talk with us some more in the future, because apparently you see is a lot more question and time take hold of everything. But I really appreciate you coming out, spending your Sunday with us to give us a little in-depth of the county and what to expect.
I appreciate it. I just put info@andrewfriedson.com. Reach out to me. I get that directly. Reach out to me anytime. Happy to follow up with any questions that anybody has. I'd love to come back anytime you want. I just, if I can, I know there's really almost no time, but I saw that the question about, what can Democrats do to push back against this narrative that working class people are starting to leave the party, or in many cases have left the party are no longer supporting us, a party that was built on and is for lifting up working families and the middle class. I'll just say 1 minute that we spend as a party and candidates within our party that we aren't talking about the everyday struggles that people are having and the economic realities that they face and how our policies are going to help them provide for their families, are going to speak to the real anxiety that they have, is a wasted opportunity and is a potential threat to our ability to work on any other issue. There are factory workers who are concerned about where they fit into our priorities. There are union
Yes.
members in the coal industry, for instance, who don't understand where they fit in to the Green New Deal. Electricians, for instance, who and trades people who don't see how they fit into an electrification agenda that we have. It's not to say that we should shy away from some of the policy priorities that we have, but we have to speak to those anxieties. We have to be acknowledging of the pain and the challenges that people face. And I think at times we have lost that. We have to reestablish ourselves as a party that speaks on bread and butter economic issues to everyday residents of our county, of our state, and of our country. Unless and until we can regain their trust, unless and until we can speak specifically to the question of whether or not they fit in, I think oftentimes we think we're speaking to constituencies who aren't hearing us in a way that we think we're speaking to them. And that is a real challenge that we have to grapple with. And we have to be really serious about that. I don't think it's necessarily, that we need to change who we are in our ethos existentially, but we have to change our mindset of how we approach issues, how we communicate those issues, and how we advance the broader policy priorities. And I also think we've got to stop the litmus test that we have within our party of, purification of, you have to be 100% with us or else you're totally against us, because politics is not a game of comparing to the almighty. It is a game of comparing to the alternative. And I think we have lost sight of that at times, and it has really damaged us. And people are going to suffer as a result of that issue. And I think in Montgomery County, particularly, working together, we can change that. Individually, collectively, together, we could do it overnight. We can't control everything. We can't control what's happening for the next few years on Capitol Hill and in the White House. We can control what we do and how we talk about it in Montgomery County and in Maryland. And we have, I think, the best governor in the country. We have an incredible General Assembly. We have a great county delegation. We have leaders right here in Maryland, in Montgomery County, who can really show the way and lead the way on this issue and regain our footing for a party that speaks to the economic anxieties, real life issues that people are talking about at their kitchen table. If we are not talking about the issues that people are talking about in their homes with their families, then we are missing them. And if we are missing them, then we have no chance. We have to win to make progress, and we have to recognize what it takes to win. And that means having a big tent. That means not having purity tests and litmus tests. And that means making sure that we are working together to advance the cause and to make sure that we are speaking to the working class people who've always been the lifeblood of the Democratic Party, the middle class voters of every race, of every creed, of every religion. That was who the Democratic Party spoke to, and we need to speak to them again.
Yep. Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes. Thank you very much, Andrew. That was well said. I couldn't have said it any better than that. So thank you very much for coming out. I think before we wrapped up, because I know I just look at it and we have it should be coming up just now. Senator King, I know you had some announcements you want to make. So I'll just close it off with you. And once again, Andrew, I really appreciate you coming out, spending your Sunday afternoon with us, and engaging in our community and letting District 39 that you're here to help us in any and each way you can. And we appreciate all of that.
Anytime and always.
Clint, I'll just make a quick announcement here. Normally before COVID, every year we had a basically a send-off dinner for District 39 the week before session starts. And we're trying to bring that back in a different fashion. I'm gonna kind of sponsor it myself. Have my delegates are all invited to come. But it's going to be dinner with the senator. And we're looking at Sunday night, January 5th. We used to do it on that Thursday night before session starts, but that's the day after New Year's. So we're thinking that we will do it on the 5th of January. I'm working right now with the Holiday Inn to try and get some arrangements there that we can do. It will be an event that we'll watch for the note that comes out, but it'll be an event that we have to have a reservation for. Because I have to give them a definite head count for how many people will be coming. And it's really just kind of a for me to listen and to be able to kind of showcase what we're going to be working on as far as bills and that kind of thing. So watch for it. We'll advertise it as much as we can, and would love to see you there.
Do you know what time, Nancy?
I don't have one. I'm thinking like probably 6 to 8.
Okay, that sounds good. Miriam, I know you had a question in the chat, and I guess Council President, he sighed, and he could probably circle back around with you about it, and you could go from there, because I know I'm looking at it, and I just think we have like a grace period of a minute or two before it cut off, and I just don't want to get cut off in the middle of his explanation of a answer for you. So you was on mute.
Yeah. If you want to just email.
No worries at all. Just, yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, you could email it to Andrew at he put his information inside of the chat for everyone who have any additional question to follow up. It's info@andrewfriedson.com, and he'll answer all your question anytime you want and get back to you guys as soon as he can. But
If you email me today, I'll respond today. So
Hey,
see, best response time ever.
you email me today. I won't respond today, but you will get a response.
Yeah, and excuse me, Clint, could I just say Richard here, but take heart, fellow Democrats. We won 2 out of 3 good races, even though we didn't make it under presidency, and we got to keep working for progress. Thanks.
We're gonna be okay.
Yes, Richard. Thank you for reminding me, because I was just
okay.
earlier. I was earlier at the Democratic breakfast brunch at D14 with the incoming president, Kate Stewart, and yes, through it all, we at least elected Angela Ossobrook to go to the U.S. Senate, and April Delaney now became the Congress-elect in MD6, which was a very big concern for us up here in Up County. So it was great news to know.
Yep. I think Maryland did its part, but we got to pull the rest of the country together too.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, as we conclude, Andrew, once again, thank you very much. Everyone in the community, I really appreciate you guys coming out. Senator King, thank you for coming out. Andrew Friedman, Andrew Sandri from MCDCC, thank you very much for attending. And Honorable Charlie Barkley and everybody else, all the names I'm seeing on my screen. I appreciate everyone for coming out and spending your Sunday afternoon with us. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and stay engaged, in touch, and we look forward.
Right,
bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Many thanks, Clint. Take care, and everybody.
All right. Take care. Mhm.